This is an Eye on Annapolis bonus podcast.
You know, I will say that I am incredibly fortunate, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't realize how fortunate I am. That is that I'm not food insecure. I can go into my refrigerator and sometimes see more than beer and leftover pizza. But we're talking today with Monica Alvarado, who is the founder, brainchild behind Feed Anne Arundel, which is doing so much for our local community that during the pandemic, it really is not food secure. And food security is sort of a new term that I learned over the past year as this pandemic is rolling through our community and how it really affects everybody. And we wanted to jump on the phone, find out about Feed Anne Arundel and all we need to know. But welcome, Monica Alvarado. How are you?
I'm good, John. Thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, the other hat that Monica wears, because she is like a six-headed creature that has tons of different hats. She is the owner of Bread and Butter Kitchen down in Eastport. It's at the foot of 2nd Street and the Annapolis Harbor, sort of catty corner from the Chart House. Wonderful place to walk to in the morning and get a breakfast wrap. I usually get bacon, egg, and cheese in a breakfast wrap, and it's wonderful. And their lunches and just a real great place to go, real quick. Best view in town, bar none. Good solid,
thank you.
Good solid food. So that's that. And actually, you've got a great picture in there of the cow on the wall. And I found the artist on that because I wanted to give my girlfriend that a picture.
Oh, wow, really?
And I was able to go to Local by Design, tell them about it. And they said, oh, yeah, I know exactly who the artist is. She lives on the Eastern Shore. So I was able to get a hold of the artist. And we were able to get a very similar painting of that cow that sits sort of to the right of your coffee things. My girlfriend ended up loving it. And I said, this is great. Now I don't have to go to Monica and say, hey, I want to buy the cow off your wall. So that's
I would have just given it to you. How'd you ask? Totally fine.
You're in business for yourself. Everything's on the table. You want to buy the coffee maker, the coffee pump? Yeah. Okay.
Anything you need, especially in the pandemic.
Absolutely. Well, let's back up. Okay. We are here right now. We're recording this on February 19th. Okay. So we're about 49 weeks into a pandemic. And it was about a year ago when you had your oh shit moment, right?
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. As a restaurant owner, there were definitely moments in March of last year where I had tears in my eyes and some crazy laughter going on because that's all you can do of like, well, that was fun. I owned a restaurant for 3 years. Check.
Yeah.
I did that. So I definitely was in that camp of not sure what was going to happen or whether we would make it. And there was fear and frustration all around, and the restrictions kept getting tighter. And we still at that point didn't even know what the actual virus could do or would do. There was so much misinformation and unknown at that point that we were literally scared for our health and safety as well. So yeah, it was a crazy time. We all kind of, it feels like so long ago, but to your point, 4 weeks from today is actually when we launched Feed Anne Arundel. And you mentioned me as the brainchild, but I'm only one half of that brainchild, to be honment.
Well, I've heard that you have half a brain. I was talking to your husband the other. No,
that wouldn't surprise me. But I have this wonderful customer. His name's Ryan Sermons, and he had been coming in my restaurant for about 2 years. And he's a pastor at a local church, and would come in on Sunday with his wife Irish and his son Floyd, and they would call ahead, and we'd always have their food ready for them. So my daily or weekly chat with him would consist of, hey, Pastor Ryan, what's the sermon about this weekend? And by the way, Pastor Ryan's last name is Sermons, which cracks me up for whatever reason. It's like he was destined to be a minister. Right. So he would have to very quickly compress, his entire sermon into like 5 words because Sundays are busy at my restaurant. And I just needed that answer quickly so I could get on with my day. But anyways, that was our initial relationship. What I did not recognize or realize, because he would come in often during the week for work meetings, was that he is the lead organizer for an organization called ACT, which is Anne Arundel Connecting Together. And ACT is this huge organization, 28 nonprofits, churches, and now Bread and Butter Kitchen is like the one not nonprofit and not church that joined. And their organization focuses on big issues like food insecurity, like housing, like universal internet is something that we're really working on together right now as well. Anyways, Ryan calls me out of the blue in March last year and says, "Hey, Monica, what do you think about restaurants leaning in to do something to help feed people?" Because he's connected to all these churches. They're aware of all these issues. Food's becoming scarce at the stores. People are getting laid off and losing their jobs. We know what's coming. And I said, "That sounds great. What do you think?" And he mentioned the Jose Andres model from Hurricane Maria, where he went down and kind of mobilized all of these chefs to cook. And I was like, "That's a great idea. However, we can't ask chefs or restaurants to donate time or food at this point. We just can't afford it. Why not try to raise money and we can use that money to pay the restaurants, and then it's a win-win, right?"
Right.
So, and that was it. That was the beginning. That was a Tuesday, I believe. And then on Saturday, we had our first food distribution in South County at Adams Church in Lothian with 400 meals. And that was 100 meals from 4 different restaurants. And we just moved so quickly because we knew we had to get to work.
Well, I want to step back just a little bit. I mean, the situation in March of 2020 was pretty dire for every restaurant. And it's funny when you say that Ryan and ACT called you and said, "Hey, what can we do?" That it was, you're like, well, yeah, send people to eat at my house, at my restaurant would be, I say a restaurant owner's answer. But you stepped up to this. But I mean, this is something all restaurants were like, they were, don't go out of your house. I mean, that was the big bad message. Don't talk to people. Don't go anywhere near people. If you see them on the street, you run to the other side of the street. Right. You turn your head, you put your mask on. And I mean, it was just this big, huge, bad thing that we didn't know about and we're still learning about today. And restaurants went from full speed from 100 to 0 inside of a day. Yeah. It was awful. And I mean, it was very real as far as, am I able to come in and turn the light on? Is BG&E going to be there cutting me off? What is going on? And this is a way that you figured out to let them keep it on. And I've used and I don't know whether you gave it to me at one point or not, but that we can help the restaurants keep the lights on dim. Yes. And we can help keep some of their employees employed and feed the community at the same time. Right. This was by no means a profitable venture, right? So we're asking restaurants to make meals for, as a restaurant owner, I set the price with input from folks like the Chart House and, the initial people that jumped on board were like Scan and Joe's, Ashland Kitchen in Crofton, Leeward Market, Grump's Cafe, Chart House. So we had a wide range of pricing that most restaurants were using, and our food costs were all a little bit different. But we kind of agreed on settled at a price of $11 per individual meal. And then later in the year moved to family style meals, which we pay restaurants $50 a meal. So that is it ensures that they're going to get a good meal, and the restaurant is also going to be able to cover their overhead and expenses. And that was really what it was all about. Keep the lights on, probably at dim. Certainly not all staff was able to come back, but we were able to keep these restaurants afloat. You talk to folks like Jody Danik at Lemongrass or Tom Hanna at Metropolitan, Luna Blue, any of the restaurants that we have worked with, they'll tell you that it was just a lifeline, right? They were getting $5,000 to $10,000 a month from us, which in most cases in downtown Annapolis certainly wouldn't cover the rent. Yeah. But it helps to kind of curb some of those bills. And a little bit of income for the Chart House is a great example. They had a little bit of income coming in and were able to demonstrate that. They were one of the few in the country that were allowed to stay open because we had this income coming into them. And what I tell people all the time is like, listen, you see $10 as a meal, but that also demonstrates a restaurant being able to keep their doors open and people working, and it activates the entire supply chain, the delivery drivers for the products,
warehouse workers, the farmers, the watermen, all across the board. The paper companies are making a killing with all the carryout supplies. And so it's a much bigger impact than it feels like on the surface when we're just simply handing somebody a meal. And we also, recognize that if I have paid you to make 100 meals for Feed Anne Arundel, that means your restaurant is open and your customers are still there. So that allowed them to maintain momentum, maintain connectivity with their customers, where some restaurants made the decision just to close. And I think for me, at least from my perspective, it feels much easier to keep going and limping along than to stop and start over months later. And I think, that's something that Feed Anne Arundel allowed restaurants to do, is just to continue to limp along and figure things out as things continue to evolve. And in my mind, a lot of those restaurants also then became very creative. One of the best outcomes from Feed Anne Arundel for me has been the collaboration of all of these restaurants. We're kind of like a mini restaurant association in Anne Arundel County, right? We've got 75 restaurants. We communicate about everything from PPP loans to where do you get your paper supplier to, did you see the news? It doesn't matter. There's this like community now, and we are able to communicate and collaborate. And that's actually how we came to realize that these delivery services were charging all of us different amounts. We started a random conversation one day, and suddenly we're like, holy cow, we've got to address that. And thankfully, County Executive Pittman and his team listened and did something for us. So yeah, crazy.
I mean, it's got so many different tentacles, and it's really very all-encompassing. And I mean, again, as you say, I mean, if you're making 100, and I got to sit there and say you're making 100 meals on a Tuesday in March, you probably weren't doing that March of 19 for a typical restaurant.
Right.
But now you are, and you're able to turn around and bring some people in at a reduced capacity. The funding. Okay. So obviously, Monica it's Alvarado. It's not Gates or Monica Musk, although that has a nice ring to it, but it's, but where is the money coming from?
Sure. So we started 100% private donations. So we threw up that first week. On Tuesday, we had the discussion. Wednesday, I had a GoFundMe page up and reaching out to chambers of commerce to find out where the restaurants are in the county who might want to participate, right? So we're making all these calls, doing all this stuff. And we just started, I think, a go live announcement on Bread and Butter Kitchen's Facebook page, and then asked the other restaurants to do the same. And so, I think I was in a good position at this point because I'd been open for about 3 years. My restaurant was set up, honestly, just perfectly for the pandemic. We already had online ordering, delivery, and curbside and carry out. And so, and I have a great team that was able to kind of step in and take over while I focused on this. So it was easier for me to kind of step away and start fundraising in that capacity. And so not even understanding whether we'd make it or not, right? That first weekend, the restaurants were like, we'll do it. If you get paid, it's fine. If not, it was a nice way to say farewell. That was kind of the thought process at that point, right? All the restaurants were like, nah. But to our surprise, thousands of dollars started rolling in. And to the point that the following week, we had over $40,000 raised in 1 week alone. I think at that point in the pandemic, as you'll recall, people were going above and beyond to help restaurants and their employees. They knew immediately. People were buying gift cards, and I had a customer coming into my restaurant every single week and dropping an envelope with $200 in cash for my employees to split every single week. So there was a lot of outpouring of support for restaurants. And when they saw Feed Anne Arundel and saw that it was like a 3-for-1, they're helping the restaurants, keeping people working, and feeding the community. It was just a no-brainer for a lot of people to throw money towards us, which we really appreciated. And what that did for us was allow us to really establish the process and demonstrate the return on investment. Because even if you talk to folks today, they'll say, well, $10 for one meal doesn't feel like the $10 for 10 meals you could get through the food bank. And that's true. However, that $10 for one meal, as I mentioned before, represents people working, not just restaurants, right? So it's a lot bigger than that. So people instinctively understood that. So So once we were able to get established, we did talk to the county, talk to the governor's office, talk to the county executive's office, and we received a grant for $200,000 in May from the CARES Act, which was amazing. It helped us continue to be sustainable.
That came from the county?
Yeah, that came from the county through the CARES Act.
Okay.
That was our first grant. And then we did get additional grants from the Community Foundation of Anne Arundel County, from the City of Annapolis's Community Foundation. Right. There were little grants coming here and there. And of course, private donations. Corporations started to see us. Brick companies gave us a $50,000 grant, which was amazing.
Lex is great over there. They do. Yeah. They're just so quiet and unassuming, and just do such wonderful stuff for the community.
They really do. And I was just blown away, because not only did they want to donate, that we've also engaged one of the golf clubs that they oversee, and their club is now helping provide food as well. And, so there's all these relationships that have kind of come together as a result of Feed Anne Arundel. As the year wore on, in November, the county reached out, there was some CARES money left over, and we didn't have enough turkeys, right? So all these, in parallel to running Feed Anne Arundel, I was also working very closely with the county on a number of food distributions, which was a natural fit, because we prepare the meals and we bring them to the food distributions that were already in place. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We just wanted to supplement what was already being done. We had worked really hard to get enough turkeys to hand out at food distributions and Thanksgiving, and we knew we were going to fall short. The need was much greater than what we could get. Apparently, you're supposed to order turkeys in February, not November.
Right. Okay.
So we needed 7,000 turkeys. Small challenges. So the county reached out and said, "Hey, if we gave you some more money, could you make full Thanksgiving meals for some families?" And so they did. They gave us another $125,000 for November, and we put out a lot of meals. But they were full Thanksgiving meals, the full turkey, the full dessert, all the trimmings. It was amazing. And that went over to over 1,000 families.
Monica, you're throwing out all sorts of crazy numbers here. and it begs the question, how bad is the food insecurity situation here in Anne Arundel County? Now,
oh man. Yeah, it's not great. So one thing that, we should all understand is that the food insecurity issue in our county is not new. It was simply exacerbated and certainly earned more attention thanks to the pandemic. But there's always been a food insecurity issue in our county. I think it's 1 in 6 children in the county are often without meals. So, wow. That's why you have programs like Backpack Buddies at our elementary schools, where, families receive a backpack full of food for their children for the weekend. I used to volunteer when schools were still open at my son's middle school, Bates, at the food pantry there every Friday, so that children could come and shop and get food for the weekend for their families. So this is not a new situation. It's just bigger. And for instance, I saw and continue to see, we see people in line that have never had to ask for help before. In fact, there was a gentleman that I knew from eating at my restaurant, and he owned his own company as a consultant, contractor for the government, single father, 2 kids, and the floor fell out from beneath him, right? The contracts got put on hold because of the pandemic. Suddenly he found himself with 2 small children, no income, and found himself in line for the very first time in his life asking for food. And it's hard. It was humiliating. It was frustrating. It was scary. But he was not alone. We saw and continue to see so many people in that same boat. As the pandemic wore on, we saw people just with less hours, or somebody gets sick in the family. They have to take time off to take care of them. It just, America, we're all like one medical emergency away from bankruptcy. So,
without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. So it certainly is a challenge. If you talk to folks like Pamela Brown at the partnership, she actually they did a whole report on food insecurity in the county a couple of years ago. So I think it's time we update that and take a closer look and see where we are now that the pandemic is here.
food insecurity affects people in so many different ways. And you can sit there and say, oh, yes, there's obviously food insecurity among the homeless population that we have here in Anne Arundel County. There's food insecurity among those that are in lower income housing and around and under the poverty level. And that's the low hanging fruit. But the fact that you can supply healthy meals, not just here's a bag of chips and a banana, to families is incredible. I mean, how many meals have you guys prepared? Do you know? Do you have your little?
Of course, I do.
Your little clicker out.
I live and breathe these numbers. So we're at over 150,000 meals at this point, and $1.4 million back into the hands of restaurant owners in our county, which is dramatic. It's a lot, and I think that's why people who are donating, and certainly the government, they understand that we're actually helping to stimulate the economy as well, which is critical.
I want to interrupt you. I want to interrupt you. You said about 150,000 meals. Yep. Okay. Now I just pulled my calculator out and I divided that by 12 and by 30. That's every single day of the week, 416 meals a day for a year. Mm-hmm. Pretty close. So about 400 meals a day.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. It is pretty wild when you start to break it down like that. And I've been lucky in my role with Feed Anne Arundel to be out and to be at each of these distribution sites, multiple times. Not everyone, obviously, but and then I'll tell you, that's my favorite thing to do, right? Especially if I'm having a low day, I get caught up in the news, I get depressed about something going on in the world. Come on,
there's nothing
control.
On the news. There's nothing on the news to be depressed about. What are you talking about?
Everything's fine. There's no fire. Just keep moving. So make eye contact. So yeah, I mean, that for me is uplifting. And I will tell you too, people receiving these meals, it is such a spirit lifter, right? So we have restaurants that have received emails, phone calls, handwritten notes, because we ask the restaurants, obviously, to put their labels on there. We want to make sure people know who made the food for them, what the food is,
right.
if there's any allergens, obviously. But primarily because we do want the people to know who is making this food for them so that when they are on their feet, they're able to go back out to eat, that they'll hopefully choose one of these restaurants. And that's the goodwill. I think many of the restaurant owners that have participated will tell you that the best part of it is being just that feeling of giving back. When they drop off the food and they're seeing smiles on the volunteers' faces, they receive these emails and notes and phone calls saying, thank you so much. This meal meant the world to me as a single mom with 3 kids. I lost my job of 19 years. You hear these heartbreaking stories. And they're just so happy to receive, a beautiful meal from Ashland Kitchen or from Mali Thai or Bismillah. There's all these amazing restaurants in the county just putting their heart and souls into making food for these people. And it's amazing.
And what I think is also very cool, and I see this time and time again, and not just in the restaurant business, but the locally owned businesses, whether this be Stan and Joe's, whether it be Ashland Kitchen, a new favorite of mine that was just discovered about 6 months ago, is, these are the local people that live in our community, that shop in our community, that hire kids and people out of our community. And at the end of the week, they go out and they spend money in our community.
Yeah. And
I just, I'd love to see, and I see it all the time and time again, whether it be, retail or service or, contractors or restaurants, certainly. There's ways to get back. I mean, very few charity organizations will go to any local business and say, hey, is there a way that you can help me out, that the business is not going to say, absolutely.
Right.
And
that's very true.
And we are a very giving community, and this really sort of shows that.
Yeah, without a doubt.
As far as donating goes, I mean, if I want to throw some dollars to you, I can go to feedannearundel.org, which is your website, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And you guys have affiliated with the Ripken Foundation.
Yeah, we are. They're currently our fiscal sponsor. That might change in the future, but not a big deal. So we're working through that now, but they're our fiscal sponsor. They have been amazing to work with. They provide all the back end support for us as far as, I'll receive the invoices from the restaurants, review them, send them to them, and they'll, review them, pay the invoice, and then with the grant through the county, that's the biggest piece for me, that they've been able to manage that, make sure that we're dotting our I's, crossing our T's, and living within the means of the grant. So that's been amazing as well. Not to mention, because they are, a well-known and established nonprofit, they gave us some credibility as well as to what we were doing, so people trusted it a little bit more. It felt much better to me.
Right. Then Monica's GoFundMe.
Right. Monica's GoFundMe. Correct. It's it's a little fishy, right? This was for us so important that we are 100% transparent, so that there are no questions, right? Especially, I'll tell you, when we got that $1 million grant from the county in December, man, the questions that started coming in from county council members, making sure that their district was represented, wanting to see the books, like, well, why are we giving her this money? How is she spending this money? Not knowing me, which is a fair question to ask. It was such a relief to know that not only did I have all my numbers and ducks in a row, but Ripken Foundation was there, as was ACDS, to kind of demonstrate to everyone that we are fair, equitable. We made a point in the beginning of partnering with the Partnership for Children, Youth, and Family. And we did that because their tentacles are in the county already. They work on social justice issues. They are helping already. So they're the ones that connected us to all the food distributions to make sure that we were giving food not just in Annapolis, but Lothian, Odenton, Hanover, Brooklyn Park. We're everywhere. There's not a spot of this county that we haven't touched and don't continue to each week. So that was really
I'm crossing
critical.
that off my list, because that was where, that's what I want to know is where are you? I mean, so you really are touching all corners of the county.
Yeah, absolutely. On any given day. Well, so there are food distributions, I would say, every day, except I haven't seen one on a Wednesday in a long time, and never on Sundays. So we usually have several on Mondays. There's one or two on Tuesdays. There are at least two on Thursdays. Friday, there's one. It's always on Fridays. And then Saturday, man, that's our big day. We're out and about all over the county. On this Saturday alone, I believe we're going to, if I can remember who I assigned, we are going to 7 different events this Saturday alone. And that is 14 different restaurants sending family-style meals to those events. Wow. And each family-style meal is awesome. Like, they feed up to 6 people. So even if you have a house with 2 people, you're still receiving the same family-style meal, and that'll feed you for several days. And our restaurants are great. Like, they're not churning out like just pasta and sauce. I mean, you've got meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans. We've got, grilled chicken, baked potatoes, and a fresh salad. I mean, they're gorgeous meals across the board. We've been really, I love it. I love that part of it, because the restaurants take it seriously. It's a reflection of who they are as restaurant owners and of their businesses. So the food is beautiful, and that's critical.
Well, I am proud to live in Anne Arundel County, and proud of people that have the thought process and the get up and go to make something like this happen. This is just fantastic what it's done for our community, and hopefully, as we go into a year into this pandemic, you'll be obsolete and fairly soon. Unfortunately, but from what you said,
that's the dream. But no,
from what you said, that's not real. That's not realistic.
No,
just because
in
of
fact,
food insecurity.
Yeah, we don't see ourselves slowing down for some time. I've already started talking to the county and actually to the World Central Kitchen a little bit about additional funding. The Feed Act just was passed through executive order by Joe Biden. And the Feed Act is exactly what we do, right? So it was brought to Congress last year by Jose Andres and a couple congressmen, and didn't pass last year for whatever reason. But essentially, it sets money aside for FEMA to pay to disseminate that money to local governments to pay restaurants to help address the same things that we're doing. So Feed Anne Arundel, we're in a very unique position right now so that, we've already got the process figured out. So our hope is that the county and potentially the state recognizes that and allows us to continue to use the funding for Feed Anne Arundel and perhaps expand. And in fact, we have Feed Howard County now, which is run by Howard County, not by us, obviously.
I was going to ask whether people had approached you saying, hey, how do we do this?
Yeah, so Feed Howard County started last year, probably in May, June timeframe. And we worked very closely with them to get them up and running, and they do their own thing. It's a little bit different than our program, a little slower pace, but they're churning right along. They've got a lot of support from their county executive as well. And then Prince George's County, they've been going for about probably 6 months now. And then in December, I had a discussion with the Office of Emergency Management in Montgomery County to talk about it as well. So there's a potential there. There's opportunity there to kind of expand this program out. And I'm lucky to be working with so many amazing restaurant owners, right? That we're now starting to talk about how to evolve Feed Anne Arundel. What does it start to look like? We do have a seat at the table as a group of restaurants within the county now, which is nice because if anyone has a question about how do the restaurants feel, just give us a call. we would happily send restaurants to your listening session, right?
Right.
For instance, Brooks Schandelmeyer, the city alderman, is working on some legislation that he wants to put forward about just having allergens posted at buffets. And before he does that, he wants to talk to all the restaurants. Here we are. We're here. Come talk to us. We'll tell you our input, what we think would work, what wouldn't work, and so that it'll be more successful going forward.
Fantastic. Well, how do we get involved with Feed Anne Arundel? We can donate. We can go to feedannearundel.org or we can go to ripkenfoundation.org/donate.
Correct. Yeah.
And that is tax free. That is a tax free. Are you
tax deductible?
Are you a nonprofit yourself yet, or
no?
So it is through the Ripken Foundation.
Correct. So that's that. Yeah, and that was a big reason for seeking out a fiscal sponsor as well. I don't know that we would want to be a nonprofit ourselves, just because of the back end administration. Right now, we're so agile. I can focus on fundraising. I've got other restaurants that are now stepping up to help me with some of the back end admin work. I don't think we're ready for that yet. But yes, all donations are tax deductible.
Okay, so we can donate. What about
yes.
Are you looking for volunteers to help with distributions?
Absolutely. So there are a number of food distributions throughout the county, always looking for volunteers. I typically send people over to Tyler Heights if they're from the Annapolis area. The Tyler Heights Elementary School is the first and third Saturday of every month. And you can sign up on a Sign Up Genius. I can send you that link, John. And I like that one. I like the one at Kingdom Celebration and at Mills Pool as well. They're just really well organized. It's a lot of fun. They need a lot of volunteers. We have about 75 volunteers every Saturday that we're there. And it's a fun, upbeat event, well organized, everybody's smiling. So that's a good one to go to if you want to just pitch in. And it's safe. It's outdoors. When you sign up, you can sign up with your friends or family in your bubble if you're feeling that way and want to stay with a group of people, you can do that. We can put you on one station together.
And while people leave with meals, you leave with a smile.
Huge smile.
And a sense of satisfaction, I imagine. Are you accepting new restaurants into the realm at this point? You said you have 75 or so.
Yeah, we certainly are. I have yet to say no,
right.
Which it could be a bad thing. Yeah. I don't know. I think we'll look at that later, as we, start to think about the strategic plan for the year. We're starting those conversations now with a group of our brain trust of restaurants. But right now, we're still accepting restaurants. I would love to see more restaurants from West County down in Crofton, Gambrels join. We don't have nearly enough from South County. Pretty well represented in Annapolis and
Glen Burnie, Severna Park.
Yeah, but there's never not an opportunity. So if people are interested, just send me an email at feedannearundel@gmail.com and I will, send you information about the program. It's really simple. As long as you have a food facility license, and we have some, be legal. So that's one priority. Obviously, we have some guidelines around the meals and what they should look like and what they should include. And as long as people can agree to that, they're welcome to join. We've had a lot of restaurants reach out who decided not to join. It just wasn't for them, and that's totally fine as well. So, but we're wide open, happy to add more restaurants if people are interested.
Well, it's so interesting as we go through this whole pandemic. I mean, different businesses, and not necessarily just the restaurant businesses, have all figured out a way that works for them. And I know one of my favorites, Main and Market, closed down. They tried it for a little bit, and they just realized, they said, hey, this is not working for us. So we're just going to take a break. We're going to do, the super clean. We're going to get some new kitchen gear. We're going to go into hibernation for a couple of months.
Yeah. I just saw Evie recently. Yeah. They're gearing up to reopen.
And that's, that was great for them. Some of their other businesses that they have remained open. So, I mean, it's, everybody's got its own little thing there. Again, the websites that you want to remember are feedannearundel.org. And there's a link actually on there to ripkenfoundation.org/donate as well. And you're going to send me a link to put in the show notes for people that may want to volunteer to do a distribution.
You bet. I will do that today. I'll send that right over to you.
And one of the more important things is that you want to make sure that if you are in Eastport, you should make a trip to Eastport. You want to go to Bread and Butter Kitchen.
Absolutely.
And their website is breadandbutterkitchen.com. And it took me, I will say, a good year because I kept saying like knife and fork or something. And that's because you got the knives in your logo.
Yeah.
But I finally have the name down. It rolls off the top of my tongue. It's like Bread and Butter Kitchen. Okay, I've got it now. But a wonderful thing. They've got the outside dining, harbor side, a little bit chilly right now in February. The snow is on there. But open. Well, you're generally open, 7:30 to 3, but you've cut it back a little bit, like 8 to 2 or something like that now.
Yeah, I mean, we're still opening at 7:30, but we typically are closing right now around 2. It just depends on how busy we are. So I leave that flexibility to my team. If they feel like it's slow, feel free to close at 2. And then I should mention for Bread and Butter Kitchen that we are going to be opening later in March. We're trying a new thing that I've wanted to do for a long time. We'll be opening Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights from 5 to 10 p.m. And we'll only be serving amazing appetizers, unbelievable desserts, and mocktails for those who don't drink alcohol. Or, if you want to grab some and doctor them up at home, I'm cool with that too. But we're going to be doing that hopefully to give people a place to stop by before or after dinner at Chart House or Boatyard or wherever they might be going that evening. So stay tuned for that.
Well, you got to make sure that the water taxis are aware of that.
I should. That's a good point.
They can just drop somebody off right there at your dock
and
say, hey, go get your mocktail on your app and stroll Eastport and get some dinner there and then head on back over the bridge to Annapolis.
Exactly. It'll be great. Should be fun.
Well, that's what I love to see about businesses, always thinking about what the future is and what we can do a little bit differently. Keeps everybody on their toes. Monica Alvarado from Feed Anne Arundel, thank you very much for what you have done. Thank you for your time to say it today, but thank you for the insight to come up with this and the countless. The one number I'm not going to ask you is how many hours you've spent on this personally, because
that is one thing I have not calculated, and I probably won't.
Yeah, no, you absolutely won't, because you'll realize that the pay sucks.
Right. But, that's very true.
And I don't want to understate this, but you've really single-handedly, for the most part, turned around lives for people in the county, and that's just something that blows my mind.
Thank you. You just gave me chills.
It's fine. It gives you chills. And I realize that you've got teams. You've got hundreds of volunteers that work, and you've got other restaurants, and everybody that's involved in this whole thing. And they're all behind the engine on the train. You've got the caboose and the passenger cars and everything else, and everybody else is all along for the ride. And you don't have a train without everybody, but you are the engine that's doing this, and you've really made such a difference in the lives of probably thousands of our neighbors. And you should sleep well for the rest of your life on that one. But
well, thank you. But, I will try.
Yeah. I want to thank you very much for your time this morning and for your time the past year. And I would hope that we're getting to the point where the need for a service such as Feed Anne Arundel is diminished a little bit, and as we get the vaccines that are rolling through and everybody gets our herd immunity and whatnot.
Yes, me too. Let's get back to life without masks.
That's right.
My glasses are being fogged up far too quickly.
I will say, I mean, right when this first hit, you guys were just such great neighbors because you had, when God knows we couldn't get toilet paper.
Yeah.
You were able to still buy the commercial single ply stuff that nobody would ever use in a
normal life.
Normal life. But you offered that you offered that to people if they wanted if they could not get toilet paper, if they couldn't get hand sanitizer, there was different soaps and different stuff like that in your restaurant. I mean, I don't think to go to Bread and Butter Kitchen for I'll take a roll of toilet paper.
Oh no! I mean, absolutely. I think I if this pandemic has done anything, it has I don't even know the right word, but it has really pushed me to remember the importance of business and its relationship to the community it serves. It is so critical that we maintain those ties and support each other. I mean, it was just a no-brainer to me. My employees needed it, so I needed it. We all needed the toilet paper, so we just started putting it out with paper towels and hand sanitizer and whatever I was able to purchase. We just put out for people to take. We didn't, we just wanted to make sure people had full bellies and clean butts.
Right. What else do you need?
What else do you need?
What else do you need? That's for sure. All right, Monica, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for everything that you've done. And,
thank you, John.
Man, it's been a year. It's been a great year.
It's been a year.
I'd love to see the great, there's some great stories that are coming out of COVID. And certainly.
There really are. There are more helpers than we knew. I know we keep trying to end this and we keep going. But I also, one of the big takeaways for me was the importance of our local elected officials. The number of people that came out who are elected and supported us and showed up at these drives to give up their Saturdays without their badges on, without, it's incredible. But I also very clearly noticed who wasn't there. And that speaks volumes. So I think that was a big takeaway for me, is understanding how important our local officials really are and how much they care about our community. A great number of them really do. And no matter how much we might disagree with them, a lot of them were out there rolling their sleeves up with us.
And it is a job that I would not wish on anybody, because there are no right answers going through this. It doesn't matter whether you're on the local level, the county level, or the state level, or the national level.
Yeah, it's hard. Those decisions they're making are life and death daily. It's hard stuff.
It's true. Well, this has been a great 15 minutes.
15-minute wrap up.
Monica, again, thank you very much. I will let you get going. I know you probably have a couple hundred meals to make for some people that are hungry in Anne Arundel County, and that's very sad that you need to do that, but it's very appreciated. Thank you very much. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
This has been a bonus podcast from Eye on Annapolis. Please visit us at eyeonannapolis.net. Follow us on Facebook at All Annapolis and on Twitter at Eye on Annapolis. And if you haven't subscribed to the Daily News Brief podcast, go for it. And all of your local news will be delivered to your phone, tablet, or smart device by 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday.